Minister's office signed by the Chief of Staff to IDEC is
Yes.
dated the 11th of November 2024.
Yes.
And your issue is that that letter is dispatched notwithstanding the report provided by the inspectorate to the minister.
That's correct.
And that report is the one you pointed out to, dated the 4th of November, wherein the Office of General Jacobs sought an extension to investigate.
That's correct.
And that was dated the 4th of November. So technically, the inspectorate has not reported back to the minister as to the outcome of its investigations regarding this complaint. Thank you.
The 10 days is not even up at that stage.
It's not over. 10 days is not over. I must indicate, commissioners, that documents ordinarily that comes to the minister, they go via the Chief of Staff. So the Chief of Staff had, in that document we referred to earlier, from the National Commissioner to the Minister, which is authored by Inspectorate, dated the 4th, the National Commissioners acting, signs on the 5th, and the Minister acknowledged that in the Minister's office, they've acknowledged it on the 5th, on the same day the National Commissioner signed it, or the acting, Jaras Beer, on the 5th, they acknowledged that letter on the stamp that is placed on 285 on top right corner there, as an indication that the Minister's office receives it on the 5th. Although the Minister then, after reading it, he then signs it on the 8th. So the letter is authored the 4th, National Commission signs on the 5th, the Minister's office received on the 5th, the Minister himself acknowledged, signs this document on the 8th. So the request of 10 days has not lapsed, because 2 days later, the 11th, we then see the Chief of Staff signs, writes a letter to IDEC. So he's basically asking IDEC to take this document. I must maybe indicate again, commissioners, while we are still on this point, that the complaint of Mr. Adams that was sent to the minister, I said earlier that Mr. Adams sent an email a day after opening a case. He sent an email directly to the minister, and subsequent to that, other emails were then sent to the Chief of Staff. I would invite the commissioners to look at Annexure 14.
Page 265.
These are emails, reference of emails that Mr. Adams forwarded to the office of the Minister of Police.
Apologies. You're correct. It starts at page 265. The actual email is at 266. Is that the email you are looking for?
And on top of that, now this is emails from Mr. Adams. As you can see, I'll just read one of them. The very first one on 266. It is from Sakiana Frenchman Parliament, and is dated the 1st of November at 8:25 in the morning, 2024. It's addressed to Nkabinde CM at scps.gov.za. That is the Chief of Staff of the Minister. And there are many other emails. And I want to move forward to invite the Commission to look at the same reference on 283.
That's part of Annexure MK15.
Yes.
Yes.
283.
Yes, and it's a series of emails as well.
Yeah, those are the trailing emails. The one on top, which I want to indicate to the commissioners, that Mr. Nkabinde, who is the Chief of Staff, you'll remember that what I showed you earlier was the email that came from Mr. Adams' office, dated the 1st of November, around 8 in the morning.
Yes.
At 9:04, the same morning, the Chief of Staff, on the same date, the Chief of Staff sent this complaint directly to the Office of the National Commissioner. The recipients, the Sibula FM Major General and Letogo GH Brigadier, they are both administrators at the Office of the National Commissioner. So this just to show the sequence that the Chief of Staff received it within an hour on the receipt of the email. He already directed this complaint to the Office of the National Commission.
I'm looking, sorry to interrupt you, General. I'm looking at the email of 8:25 on the 1st of November 2024. It says in paragraph 2, I was told that the dockets were intercepted. This comes after the dockets have been itemized. And then it refers to another set of dockets. And then it says that the same modus operandi was followed. I'm just trying to place myself, in the place of the recipient of this email. I would have gone back to the sender and said, what on earth are you talking about? To just say, I have learned that the dockets have been intercepted, and then you refer to another set of dockets and you say the same thing was done. What exactly was the interception, by whom, at what point, and when you say the same was done, what exactly is the same? I would, if I was the recipient, I would have gone back to the sender and said, what on earth are you talking about? And asked for some specificity instead of then forwarding this to someone else to respond or to make a follow-up. Looking at this, I'm totally lost as to what Mr. Adams was talking about, or MP Adams was talking about. Do you want to comment on that?
Exactly, Commissioners. It is part of what we uncover as we investigate. All these strange things that are happening, that takes us to us reaching the conclusion that is part of a bigger plan of things. So these are puzzles that we are trying to put together as we're investigating. Because on the same page, Commissioner 283, you have both emails that are reflected there. The one at the bottom comes from Mr. Adams, and look specifically at the time. It is 8:21:01 in the morning of the 1st of November 2024. It is directed specifically to the minister himself, not to Nkabinde, this one. The one I referred to earlier was directed to Nkabinde. This one is strictly to Edward Senzo Mchunu, his email address, the minister directly. I said earlier there were other emails that followed thereafter to Nkabinde, but this one was specific. It went straight to the minister at 8:21 in the morning. On the same date, on the 1st of November, a couple of minutes later, less than an hour, the Chief of Staff at 9:04 in the morning, the Chief of Staff forwarded this complaint to the National Commissioner's office. So I would have expected the very same minister to ask those questions, Commissioner. And because the logic tells you, you open a case the day before and you're complaining today in the morning. So it means overnight there was an interception in your conclusion. I don't think it's a fair process, conclusion that Ms. Adams will have reached. But nonetheless, the minister did not ask Mr. Adams a question, neither the Chief of Staff. But what's interesting here, Commissioners, is that this email from the Chief of Staff to the National Commissioner's office reads, and I want to quote it on record. Good morning, Major General Sebola. As I said, Sebola is at the office of the National Commission. But the Chief of Staff says, the ministry has received this complaint from the Member of Parliament. In order for the ministry to respond accordingly, please finish this office with a report in responding to this complaint and the details of the investigating officer who was assigned to investigate these cases. Your report is expected on Monday, the 4th of November at 1500 hours. So this is the timelines that are given by the Chief of Staff, who says the ministry. I'd like to believe perhaps the Chief of Staff will have received directive from his boss, which is a minister in this regard. But then we come back into what we're talking about, then becomes strange that after the 4th of November, the timeline has been met by inspectorate, although the minister received it on the 5th. The very same Chief of Staff then writes a letter under the minister's signature, heading ministry, cover letter, and he sends this thing to IDEC.
Now, you referenced the report from the inspectorate dated the 4th of November, and we understand from that report that a request for an extension was, there was a request for an extension, correct?
That's correct.
And then you say the Chief of Staff directed a request for investigation to IDEC on the 8th of November.
The 11th.
On the 11th of November, I apologize. If I could refer you to Annexure MK15, it's part of that pack. I see there at page 289 a further report, and this is dated the 20th of November 2024. It's signed by General Jacobs PA on his behalf. Do you see that?
Yes, Commissioners.
I would like you to, it would appear that this report is in response to the complaint originally received, specifically regarding the Cape Town files and the Orlando files. That's captured at 2.1.1 and 2.1.2. And 2.2, they deal with the inspector deals with the instruction received from the National Commissioner. I would like you to have regard and read into the record the conclusion drawn at 2.2.1.
The 2.2.1 of the information note,
Yes.
that is annexed on 289.
That's correct.
2.2.1, you said?
2.2.1.
Yeah, a report was compiled wherein the allegations that there was interference from both the provincial offices were reported to be unfounded.
And this was in relation to the question the chairperson posed to you about what interference was being referenced. And am I reading the document correctly that General Jacobs, by the 20th of November, had concluded that the allegation of interference was unfounded?
That's correct.
Now, just to close on that, if I refer you to, in the same document, to page 290, it's item 3.3. If you could read that into the...
As part of the protocols to address service complaints, an affidavit is obtained from the complainant. Colonel Phillips of this office was tasked to obtain the affidavit. However, after numerous attempts, it seems as if the complainant is evading the request. Please find Colonel Phillips' affidavit as proof hereof.
Now, am I correct in understanding that the conclusion is in part based on the fact that the inspectorate could not obtain an affidavit as required from the complainant to substantiate the claim?
That is correct.
At paragraph 180, you have dealt with this letter already, that the Chief of Staff refers it, the same complaint to IDEC. Do you know the status of that complaint within IDEC as we speak?
I'm not privy to the status of the complaint since the dockets were taken to IDEC.
Okay.
They operate outside the police.
And there, as far as you know, there have been no engagements. Do you know whether or not there have been any engagements with the police from the affected police stations, which is Cape Town and Orlando, in respect of these case numbers?
What I am privy to, Commissioners, is that Gerald Jacobs' office, after receiving this docket as part of the investigation, they were approached by IDEC requesting that they hand over those case dockets of Gauteng in the main, and Gerald Jacobs refused to hand over the dockets. And they then, IDEC, wrote to a head of crime detection in the police, it is Lieutenant General Sentumuli. They wrote to her requesting the dockets. And she then contacted Gerald Jacobs and asked Gerald Jacobs to release the dockets to IDEC. Now, IDEC is led by an individual, and it is an entity of the NPA as a prosecution. The inspectorate, the detective services is led by individuals, which is part of the South African Police Service as a department which is led by the National Commission. But the correspondence from the NPA to the police does not include the people in charge of the two entities. It includes the head of IDEC and the head of investigation. So the correspondence between the two and the authority is granted by the police detectives and instructing inspectorate to release the docket, and then dockets were then taken by IDEC. To date, those dockets are sitting with IDEC.
I see in your
I'm just surprised that there would have been this much effort, this much laborious activity, all of it stemming from a non-complaint by Adams MP. I mean, with that one-liner in respect of the one category of dockets, and then another one-liner in respect of the second category of dockets, and then there's this much activity and effort. In fact, it just does not make sense that the Inspectorate of Subs should have been required to even give a report. Of course, I'm just expressing a view based purely on the fact that what initiated all of this was a non-complaint. It's totally not substantiated. So what the Chief of Staff, or what he refers to as the ministry, what they should have done was to go back to Adams MP and ask for specificity before all of this laborious activity was then engaged in. Do you want to comment on that, General?
Commissioner, my comment might be to some degree perhaps being biased, because I'm the one that is combing through all what is happening. Perhaps I must indicate to the Commissioner that what led us to able to comb through all this what has transpired is in two phases. One is information I get through my sources within IDEC that there is activities that are happening with IDEC that are not in line with what the purpose of the formation of the entity is. And that there are two structures within IDEC. There's a good structure that deals with the Zondo Commission, and there's another structure that is malicious, that is used as a weapon to further disrupt the criminal justice system operations. So I get there through my sources within IDEC. That's on one. That's how I was able to get this letter. It's not a letter that was given to me on request from the Chief of Staff. No, I got it through the sources. And the Chief of Staff cannot deny it, or the Minister cannot deny it, because it's got his signature as a legitimate letter. IDEC has that because they called for the docket informed by this letter, so they can't deny the letter. It's a picture that we started picking up. That is on one side through the information. But secondly, Commissioner, when we see the disruption of the investigation of the Gauteng counterintelligence operations, we then begin to ask ourselves why this is happening. What is much talked about in the media that is not known is the arrest of Gerald Khumalo. So we have this arrest. When this arrest happens, it literally means this project must stop. This investigation of this organized crime must stop immediately because the people are arrested. We start investigating out.
I hope I've not muted. I hope I've not muted.
No, it didn't.
Just, can we still hear the general, all of us?
Yeah, I can hear
at the back there. Okay.